Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, and welcome to something a little bit different than what we're used to here in the channel. We're not doing Call of Duty multiplayer, we're doing Call of Duty Warzone. As you guys all know, Caldera, the new Pacific map for Warzone, is out, and I've actually been playing it quite a lot lately. I've been playing it a bit more than I've been playing the multiplayer because, well, we all know the state of the Vanguard multiplayer right now. It's getting better. Apparently, today, Sledgehammer Games rolled out a fix for the M1 Garand and the STG-44 to really quickly cover what happened. They made it so those two guns could be available in Warzone before Vanguard came out, and as a result, you could level up those weapons in Warzone before Vanguard came out, and as a result, be max level on your weapons, and therefore just have all the challenges unlocked right away. But the problem is, there's a bunch of bug challenges for both of those weapons as a result of that little promotional bit that they did, and you could not get the headshot kills, I think, for the STG, you couldn't get the normal eliminations for the STG, you couldn't get eliminations, I think it was eliminations and headshots actually for both weapons, it just simply would not work. So, I did use the STG before the game came out, and as a result, I could not get those challenges completed. I did not use the M1 Grand, so the M1 Grand challenges were no problem. But yeah, that was a big problem for a lot of people out there, and they apparently fixed it today, so you can finally finish up your STG-44 and your M1 Grand if you're working towards the atomic grind. But yeah, I'm definitely enjoying Warzone a lot more now. A lot of the problems I had with Warzone in the past have been fixed with Caldera, and I'm actually a huge fan of it so far. It's at the point where when I get on and I start streaming at night, I think to myself, we can do multiplayer, we could do Warzone, what should we do? And most of the time, I'm like, let's start with Warzone, because I kind of want to play Warzone. I think it's pretty fun, actually. So why do I like it? Why do I like Warzone now more than I did before? I think 90% of it, honestly, is the map. I think Caldera is a much better map than Verdansk. I think Caldera looks incredible. I love the fact that it is set in World War II. Obviously, we have the Pacific theme there. You can only use Vanguard weapons as of right now in certain playlists, which are the playlist I play. And I enjoy that aspect of it so much. It reminds me a bit of Blackout. It's not as good as Blackout, in my opinion, but it reminds me more of Blackout than Verdansk did. I did a number of reviews on Verdansk and Warzone when it came out, and obviously throughout Warzone's life cycle over the course of the past couple of years, and my biggest problem with Warzone is it came after Blackout, because Blackout to me was the superior Battle Royale. What I liked about Blackout was you dropped in and it felt like a normal Battle Royale. The map was much smaller. Wherever you dropped, you'd have typically a fight where you dropped, whether it was Nuketown or Raid or whatever, you'd drop in, you'd have a fight, hopefully you come out on top, and then you loot, right? You have some weapons, and you had to get your attachments, you had to pick up your perks, you had to kill people and take their things, and then once you were done looting your initial drop area, you had to keep on moving, because that's how Battle Royale works. I mean, you may have gotten a couple of decent-ish guns, but now you need attachments, now you need perks, now you need equipment like grapple guns and frag grenades, and back in the day, the 9-bang, which was completely broken, so much so they had to remove it from Blackout, but yeah, you had to go keep moving, area to area, looting and finding people and pushing fights, because you may have level 2 armor, but your level 2 armor is about to break, and so now you have to find more armor, and oh, there's a guy right there, I can try and take out that person and take their armor and keep on going with it, right? And in Verdansk, like the Verdansk edition of Warzone, Loadouts killed all that. I mean, basically, you drop in some random location. If you don't want to do a hot drop, you get a bunch of cash, you call in your loadout marker, you get your perfect meta weapon with your perfect meta attachments and perks, and then what do? You don't really do anything, really. I mean, every time I played Warzone, people act like it was like so fast-paced and so amazing, but every time I played it, I'm like, dude, there's just people on skyscrapers everywhere, man, and plus the map itself was so dense. Like, they had downtown, and you had people camping on top of prison, and then random 3-story roofs, and people hiding out in the superstore, and there were just so many people and so many buildings, you couldn't just account for it all. Like, pushing buildings was a big pain, in my opinion. And, of course, the fact that everyone already had their meta weapons, they had no reason to move. What I liked about Blackout was you had to move from area to area because you wanted your perfect loadout, but every game was also different because it was all ground loot. You know, I would always be looking for, like, a Rampart or a KN-57 or maybe an Auger as my primary with an MP40 secondary. Obviously, I would like to find Dead Silence, maybe some Skulker, maybe Consumer, these different good perks in Blackout, but we didn't have that in Warzone. We had no reason to keep on moving and keep on looking for things, and as a result, the game was a lot more slower paced, and with the way the map was designed by making it absolutely massive with so many buildings to hide in, I just felt bored. Honestly, that was my biggest thing with Warzone. I was bored when I played it. Like, it got to the point where I wasn't even frustrated anymore. I was just bored. I was apathetic as to what was happening because it was just so unfun, in my opinion, which I know is not the opinion that everyone shares, but that's the whole thing about video games. They're all very subjective, and we all have very different opinions on how things go. And what we have here with Caldera is it's a lot more like the Blackout map. It's still very big, but the buildings are not nearly as big of a problem. Instead, we have lots of hills and lots of terrain and trees and bushes and cover. and things like that. And there are a lot of very interesting areas that actually do have buildings and stuff like that, but a lot of them are also nice Easter eggs, which is super fun, which we did see in Verdansk. In Verdansk, we had places like Scrapyard, for example, which was cool. And here in Caldera, I mean, my mind was blown one day. We were just waiting for a match, and they dropped us in a location, and I'm just aimlessly walking around waiting for the game to start, and I'm like, wait a minute. This is Macon. They have Macon Day from World at War here on this map. And I was like, no way, that's so cool. And I heard a bunch of people talking about there's apparently like a Nocturne Toten area. I'm like, really? Nocturne Toten? And so my mind starts immediately thinking to myself, like, is it like Transit, where it's like in the middle of a cornfield somewhere, like off the way, no one knows where it's at? No, it's just a random building that just looks like a normal building, but you walk inside, it's got the exact same layout as Nocturne Toten. It's actually pretty close to Macon Day. And I'm like, that's so cool. And then you have all the bunkers. I was watching an Ink Slasher video earlier, and apparently there's 13 bunkers on the map, which was hinted at by Captain Butcher during the cinematics and stuff. So those bunkers are going to have something to do with something later on, which is definitely pretty cool. But the overall feel of the map is what I like most about it. And they also made change the loadout markers as well, which is a big thing that I enjoy as well. Like I said, loadouts, in my opinion, are bad for Battle Royale. I get that's what like sets Warzone apart. And that's what makes it more quote-unquote competitive, because everyone's got pretty much the exact same weapons, even though it's Battle Royale, and it just kind of goes against the entire spirit of the game mode, in my opinion. But they made it so you have to wait until after the first circle comes in to actually be able to call in a loadout marker, which is like 5+ minutes that you have to wait. And that makes ground loot actually important. You know, you're dropping, you're grabbing guns, you're looting, and things like that. It's the Modern Warfare Warzone style of looting, where the weapons have predetermined attachments, but still, it's better than nothing. You know, it definitely gives me more of that Blackout vibe. People are using ground loot. People are just trying to survive and finding armor and finding ammo and things like that, and using ground weapons. And if you can get your loadout, great. But if you can't get your loadout, you know, it's all right. You got to make do with what you got. And I definitely like that feeling. I will say ground loot kind of sucks. There's some good things about ground loot. So I would say like most ground loot bars are good. If you can find like a blue bar, purple, even a gold bar, the bar is very good, I would say. MP40 in general seems to be pretty good. I don't like what they've done with the Tommy gun or the MG42. They're basically like the rapid fire variants, which means they suck at range and therefore aren't very good. The STG44 ground loot seems to be good. My personal favorite is actually the NZ41 ground loot. I love the NZ41. So much fun. The snipers are serviceable. I mean, the Type 99's okay. The Mosin's okay. The PTRS is very fun when you can find that. Definitely enjoying finding random different weapons and trying out different things. Again, it gives me a bit more of that Blackout vibe. I mean, for years there, I was streaming, and we would just play Blackout every single night because it was so interesting and so fun. And we had so many fun locations to drop, and every game was different. You had this ideal setup that you're hoping to get, but you never knew what you were going to get. Some games, you just made do with what you had. You're like, all right, I got myself a Koshka, and I've got I'm just going to make up a gun, an MX-9. Let's go. And then maybe you find a better weapon later on. Or if you find a gold pistol, for example, in Blackout, it was so fun because a gold pistol had all the attachments, and you could swap all the attachments off that pistol and put it on your assault rifle, for example. And you can't do that in Warzone, but it definitely reminds me a bit more of Blackout, this. And I'm enjoying that aspect of it quite a bit. I watched a couple of reviews from people that got to play the game early, and a number of them said the game felt a bit more like Blackout. And I'm like, I doubt it, but I hope. And when I started playing it, I'm like, oh wow, this is actually a bit more like Blackout. It's still Warzone, obviously. It still feels like Warzone, so looks like Warzone, you know. But it definitely has a lot more gameplay elements of Blackout, in my opinion. There are a bunch of I guess things I don't like so much, like the sound of constant fire happening around you is kind of annoying because like you can't really hear footsteps nearly as well. The planes and the anti-air guns, I think it's interesting, but just I don't know how much I like it right now. I don't know. I don't really have too much experience with the planes or anything like that, or even trying to shoot them down. But just, you know, every now and then you got planes that are just constantly flying by, and seeing how that goes. I mean, it definitely adds a new element to the game for sure. But I would say overall, my favorite aspect of Warzone and the new Caldera update is just simply the fact that the map, in my opinion, is much better. It's much more open. It's not nearly as campy. And ground loot actually matters. And loadouts, while yes, they are really good, and it's good to get your loadouts. I try to get my loadout during, you know, every single game. It's not as big a deal as it was back in Verdansk. And I think that's pretty good as well. So overall, definitely enjoying it, man. My two biggest problems with the game, which would be the maps and the loadouts. I mean, the map's much better, and the loadouts aren't nearly as big of a deal. I mean, obviously, they become a big deal towards the end game, but early game, I think it's a lot more interesting. I know there's lots of people out there that hate it because they're so used to, like, you know, there's people that really loved Verdansk. There's people that grinded Verdansk like crazy for several years, and, you know, they're really used to loadouts. They love their loadouts. I see people complaining on Twitter all the time about how long it takes to get their loadout. I'm like, dude, how about you just go play the game? How about you you pick up some ground loot like an old school battle royale and just go out there and have some fun, but they're so focused on like being the next like Scumpy, I don't know, that they think that they have to like have the most meta loadout and constantly slide cancel around. They're just like, what do I do? What do I do? I don't have my meta loadout. Oh no, oh no. It's like, dude, the STG's fine. The NZ41's fine. I mean, a lot of the guns that you find on the ground. The DP28 is insane. The LMGs in general seem very good. Even the Bren, believe it or not. It's fun messing around with ground loot. It's fun just exploring the map itself. There's so much to see, so much to do, and we know there's gonna be a lot more coming. And it feels kind of good that I'm actually enjoying Warzone for a change, because as someone who did not like Verdansk really whatsoever, it was always really annoying as a person that only played like the traditional multiplayer, knowing that Warzone constantly got all these updates and all these changes, and it was always at the forefront of the developers and like what they were actually doing. And now I'm actually enjoying that aspect of it a little bit, so I can play multiplayer in Vanguard, keep going for Atomic, keep grinding my challenges, keep prestiging and leveling up. But if I just want to chill out and do something different, I can now go play Warzone, and that takes me back to the good old days of Black Ops 4, which is a game that I loved, because we play multiplayer a bunch. Every now and then we'd be like, you know what? How about some Blackout tonight? And then we got pretty hooked on Blackout. And now we have kind of the same thing happening with Vanguard's multiplayer and Warzone. But right now we're playing a bit more Warzone because Vanguard multiplayer still has so many bugs and so many problems. But yeah, those are my impressions. That's my like little review there, I suppose, of the new Caldera update. Definitely a big fan. Definitely having a lot of fun with it. I don't think I'm going to be like switching over content to like Warzone videos or anything like that. I'm still going to be focusing like 100% on multiplayer here on the channel, but I just want to do this little off video here, just letting you guys know that, in my opinion, Warzone is a lot better. I'm definitely enjoying it. I know there's a lot of people out there that are wondering how I feel about this update compared to the previous Warzone iterations that we had, because they know my stance on Warzone, and, nowadays it's a lot better, believe it or not. So definitely having fun. I hope you guys all enjoyed today's video. If you did, consider leaving a like, leave your thoughts and feedback on Caldera down there in the comments section below. Be sure to subscribe if you're new around here, and I hope you guys all have a wonderful day.